Mhm. Great. Well, welcome again to another one of our Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails forums. This should prove, I hope, to be a very informative forum. And based on the attendance today, I think everybody else is hoping it will be very informative as well. So this tis the grant season. We've got lots of grants up and coming right now. And everybody is feverishly kind of trying to decide what grants are going to work for them and how this all works and shakes out. Some are new to grants, some are very well versed in grants, but DNR provides a huge array of grants to choose from for different areas of parks and trails, different types of projects. So we've recently had some turnover in the DNR grants department because of Audrey Malari retiring after many, many years. So there's a little bit of movement in the DNR grants division. And so we're really excited to meet some of our new grant coordinators and just get a nice little feedback and understanding from them what some of their grants can apply for into some of our different parks projects. And just really, it's an introduction to some of your new grant coordinators. So even of those of us who have been doing DNR grants for a while may not really know our new coordinators and be in front of them. So I'm going to turn it over. I can introduce Sarah and Jennifer. Those are the two I believe that we have on here with us today. So I will turn it, since Sarah, you were kind enough to turn on your camera, I'll hand it over to you first, and then maybe we'll hear from Jennifer as well. But really, it's just, I'll hand it to you. You go through whatever format you want to go through, and
Okay,
introductions and what you want us to know, and then we'll just open it up for question and answer after that.
sounds great. I'm going to apologize in advance because thanks to the weather, Jenny and I are both have terrible colds. So we decided today, since I'm not the one hacking, that I'll do most of the talking. But so hopefully Jenny will jump in to introduce herself. But I'm Sarah Wennerberg. I've been with the DNR since December of 2022. So I joined the team. Mine was a third position for anybody that worked with Audrey or Mining Moa. We were a team of three very briefly, and Mining took a new position, and Audrey kindly gave us 10 months notice and is enjoying retirement now. We miss her a lot, but she checks in to make sure we're doing okay. She's enjoying some time with her grandbaby. We brought Jenny onto the team last May as my Ning's replacement. We are still looking for a replacement for Audrey. So we're currently a team of two. Anybody that is sort of new to me, there's good reason for that. I usually manage grants that are funding our state projects. So any local projects that I'm managing right now are just sort of I'm picking up on behalf of the vacancy. So we're getting it all squared away. But in the meantime, Jenny and I have split up the managing of our Greater Minnesota grants along with Dan Goldner, who manages trail grants in our program. And we also manage our local parks grants. So we're just going to give a general overview of those grants that are offered by DNR, and then answer any questions that anybody has today.
Sarah, do you want me to introduce myself real quick?
This is Jenny, everybody.
Hi, I am off camera for a reason. Apologies. I'm going to do my best to get through this today. But as Sarah mentioned, I joined the DNR grants team with Parks and Trails in May of 2023 and worked closely with Audrey until she retired in October, and helping cover the outdoor recreation and natural scenic area programs, as well as helping with the legacy grant programs as well. So that's me.
So I am probably gonna cut my camera and try to share my screen. So again, just quick overview of the other grants that you may or may not be aware of. I think we have a good mix of there's probably, a good mix of people on this call that are familiar with our grants program and others that are oh, I am not able to share my screen.
Gina, are you able to change for her to be able to share screen, or would you like me to try and take the wheel?
I'm on a webinar. My camera's off.
Okay, you should be able to share now. Go ahead and
Okay.
give it a try, Sarah.
All right, let's see what we got here. Okay. Is everyone able to see that? Wait,
Now we are.
yes?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Let's get rid of, okay. We're just going with that. All right, so we are, you probably hear about us in known as different things. Whoops. We consider ourselves, we're the grants unit within Parks and Trails Division at DNR. So if you hear of other grant opportunities and they're not tied to Parks and Trails, they're not tied to us. So in particular, we are talking today about our local grants. So grants that are going out to local communities. Let's see. So just an overview of our staffing currently. For parks, Jenny and I are managing the park grants. So our local park grants that are going to cities, counties, townships. We still have the one vacant position. So Jenny and I are your points of contact. So we manage, in addition to the Parks and Trails Legacy sourced by the commission, we also have our local parks grant. So we have 3 programs: our outdoor rec grant program, the natural and scenic areas program, and then the National Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership program that we refer to as ORLAP. And then on the trail side, Dan Goldner is our coordinator for federal rec trails, local trail connections, and regional trail grant programs. He is still helping out with the trail grants through Greater Minnesota just because of our vacancy. The purpose of my 3rd position was to pick up the trail grants, but we are all just sharing right now. So our grant programs for both parks and trails are annual cycles. We coordinate with Dan to release our RFPs typically in December. And then we have our deadlines coming in late March for all of our programs except for Dan's federal recreational trail programs, the FRTP programs that are due, I think today actually. The final submission is coming in for this round, but typically late February for his grants. We publish our RFP and our materials on the DNR Rec Grants webpage. We've linked it here in case the presentation is sent out and shared around. We also have a listserv for communities. If you don't know if you're on that listserv and you want to be, just reach out to me or to Jenny and we can add. Very often, if there's turnover with city staff or county staff, we may have the community on there, but maybe not the right person. So if you want to check and see if you are on the listserv, go ahead and email us. We, for all of the grant programs, we have funding priorities that align with the Minnesota SCORP. And I'm going to try to link us there just very quickly. The SCORP is known as the State Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan. This is a strategic plan that's put together every 5 years, and we rate our grants based according to the priorities of the SCORP strategies. So right now, our current SCORP is on its last year. Our planning section is working to conduct surveys and take a look, review the scope, see if any of our priorities need to change. So right now, our top strategies are connecting people to the outdoors, acquiring land and creating opportunities, taking care of what we have, and coordinating among partners. And so when we put out the application, many of the questions in the application are tied to these strategies.
Hey, Sarah, I think that showed up on a separate
Oh, did it?
screen. I
Oh,
think so,
shoot.
yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure that I can figure that out. Bear with me, I am not used to Zoom. Let's see.
You might need to stop share and then
I
reshare it.
might need to. Okay, thanks. Let's see. I can get. Oh, there we go. Reshare. Here we go. Okay. Okay, can everybody see?
Yep.
So
Yeah, the score up now.
great. So this is on our website, the State Comprehensive Outdoor Rec, and these are our priorities for our current SCORP. Connecting people, acquiring land, taking care of what we have, and coordinating among partners. Now, keep in mind when you're doing an application, your project isn't going to 100% hit all of these priorities. We're looking for impact. We're looking for the connection to the priorities that you are making. And so when you are going through the application, don't panic if you're not completely tying out to the SCORP priorities. We don't expect you to be able to hit every single one. Let's see. Okay, so our first grant program. Can everybody see the?
No, I think you're gonna have to do the same thing where you close it out
Okay.
and then reopen again. There you go.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to start with our local parks grants. We first program I'm going to talk about is our outdoor rec grant program. Our eligible applicants are cities, counties, and townships, our local government units, LGUs. The program focus will be acquisition, development, or redevelopment of outdoor rec facilities. So parks, some trails or trails that are within parks, and anything that's maintained for outdoor recreation into perpetuity. So if you have worked with these grants before, have been funded through these programs, or even if you, as you work with the Greater Minnesota grants, you are required to place a deed restriction on a funding restriction on the property that's been developed or acquired. And that is to maintain the land for outdoor recreation, public outdoor recreation into perpetuity. And there are situations that often arise where we'll have to remove a piece of land out of recreational use. That turns into a conversion process, which I will not torture anybody with in this presentation. So we're looking at internal park trails, picnic shelters, playgrounds, athletic facilities, boat access, fishing piers, swimming beaches, and campgrounds. Our match requirement for these is 50% cash or in kind. And for all of our grant programs, typically applications will be more competitive and will score slightly higher if the match amounts can be are secured and confirmed at the time of application. For the outdoor rec program, we're also looking for a more competitive application will be, say a city is applying for funds. If the matched funds are at least 20% of the city's own funds, that's a little more competitive as well. It's just showing that if the grant doesn't come through, the city or the local government is prepared to cover the costs of the project. Outdoor rec program minimum ask is 20,000 with a max of 350,000. So that's a total project cost of 700,000. Most of our projects started about, or the applications that come in started at about 150 and go up. We have very few that come in for 20,000, but they're rare, but not impossible. And we aren't looking to fund bigger projects over smaller projects. What we're really looking for in our application, in our review, is impact to the community. So if applicants are able to identify and document the need for whatever facility that you're trying to create, and then further document, show the impact to the community, that's what we're looking for. We're not making $1 amount more competitive than another. And then our funding sources for outdoor rec are federal funds known as the Land and Water Conservation Fund through National Park Service. We also have state funds available through LCCMR, Lottery and Lieu, our very small pot of general fund, and then occasionally bonding, although we haven't had bonding fund these projects in a while. We take it when it comes to us.
This is Jim Daring with the City of Redwood Falls. Are you taking questions now, or do you want them through the chat?
I'll take questions now. That's great.
Well, the question I have for this is, are these funds subject to SHPO review, NHIS review, and prevailing wage requirements?
Yes. So SHPO will always be involved in projects, whether it's through state funding or federal funding. Their review is dependent on whether it is at a state level or a federal undertaking. In some cases, and then depending on SHPO's determination, we could go into further surveys and whatnot. Environmental, it really depends on what the initial IPAC and environmental assessments are showing at the time of application, if we need to go further. And then what was the last question?
Prevailing wage.
Prevailing wage. Yeah, so prevailing wage is part of the DNR contract, no matter what the funds are the source of funds.
So then I'm going to ask, is the SHPO and NHIS fees are grant eligible?
They are not grant eligible.
I was hoping, but
There are, funny you should mention, I had about 3 weeks ago, a funding opportunity I saw was being sent out for funds to support SHPO projects or reviews. I can try to find that funding opportunity and send it along to Carlin.
yeah, I think Joe mentioned that to me once too.
Okay.
Because a SHPO review, we just signed our grant agreement finally after SHPO and NHIS with Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
And they're $5,000 to $15,000. I mean, depending on the scope. So they're quite an expense, and would really like to have them, be at least credited as in-kind match. So
Yes. Yeah. Good to know. At this time, not eligible. But anything is possible, and I think SHPO is recognizing that. I mean, the reviews, they're recognizing based on the volume of their reviews that they've been taking. There's quite a lot that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it is hard. I agree for communities, some communities, most communities probably to go in on that expense at its own risk.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate the answering the questions.
Yeah, no problem. So our next local parks grant falls under the natural and scenic area category. Again, these are LGUs and school districts, and this is for acquisition of natural and scenic areas that are not going to be highly developed for, there won't be playgrounds, there may not even be a restroom. We do minimal development with these, or accept minimal development as part of these projects. The bulk of the fees are acquisition or acquiring permanent easement of the natural and scenic areas. And so again, the match would be 50% cash or in kind if the local government unit can show that 20% of that match is coming from their own revenue pot. That makes it a little more competitive. We're at a minimum request of 20,000, but the max request bumps up to 500,000 for land acquisition. And similar to outdoor rec, our funding sources are LWCF, LCCMR, Lottery and Lieu, our general fund, and our occasional bonding awards that we receive.
Sarah, if you can go
Yep.
back to that one real quick.
Sure.
I would just note too, for the natural and scenic area grant programs, one of the requirements is that we do review and approve all the development plans for parks that receive natural and scenic area funding.
Yeah. Okay, and then this is one of the newer programs in our little grants unit, the ORLAP grants. This is federally funded through LWCF, so the Land and Water Conservation Fund. If anyone has heard of LAWCON, that is Minnesotan speak for LWCF. And so the two are interchangeable, but the rest of the country calls it LWCF. So these are federal funds. So when LWCF for our local parks grants aren't spent, they're trying to cycle back some of those funds into other programs. And so this is one of them. This is for cities or unincorporated towns with populations of at least 30,000. We are also, the park must be located in a census tract identified as disadvantaged. And NPS has uses the CGES tool as a way to review the census tract information. So these grants are considerably more challenging. They're quite a bit larger in scope, and so they require quite a lot of our hand in hand working with NPS to try to make sure that all the components fit, that there are all the eligibility criteria are taking place. It can take quite a long time to put an application for this together and to have the award come through. Worth it in the end. The max request is $15 million. So any community that's really trying to reinvigorate a park area or an outdoor space for its communities, this is a great opportunity for them. We've been through a few rounds now with ORLAP grant, and NPS hasn't settled on one program focus or priority. They're still trying to work through what really is doable for communities. So the program focus really depends on what funding opportunity we are on. So the census tract information, the CGES tool, is new for the current funding round. And they keep removing priorities or adding priorities depending on the opportunity. So if you get a room full of grantees together, they might all be very, very different in scope just based on the priorities of the round they were funded under. Again, the match is 50% of cash or in kind. And then again, our latest round was a minimum of 300,000 with a max of 15 million. That has depended on the funding round as well.
One other thing I would add, Sarah, that we forgot here too, is just to clarify that unlike our other two programs for ORLAP, these are submitted and selected at a national level and compete nationally versus our state applications for outdoor rec and natural and scenic.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so we assist with the application to NPS, different from our other local park grants where you would apply to DNR. DNR makes a selection for pushing on to NPS if federal funds are going to be used for those programs or not. And then for our trail grants, we have the Local Trail Connections Grant, known as LTC. Again, these are our local government units, so cities, counties, townships. This is for acquisition or development of trails immediately available for use, meaning that it ties up to an already existing trail. It's ready to go when it's done. It's not phase one of a bigger project and will be able to be used when the project is complete. This requires for our trail projects a little bit different, 25% cash match for LTC with a minimum request of 5,000 and maximum of 150,000. Funding sources here are all state level, so it can be through LCCMR, lottery and lieu, our general fund, and our bonding funds when they're available. And then we have the RTP program, our regional trail program. We have LGUs outside of the 7-county metro area. So nothing in the metro. This is specifically for greater Minnesota regions. Again, acquisition or development of regionally significant trails, priority is given to the usable trails in the area. So again, linking up and being able to be used immediately when the project is complete. 25% cash max with a 5,000 minimum and 250,000 maximum request. And again, these are state funded. And then Dan's final grant program is the FRTP program, Federal Rook Trail Grant Program. These are available to LGUs, recognized tribal governments, and private trail organizations sponsored by an LGU. So the LGU is still involved, but Dan works closely with private trail organizations with this program. So this one really has a much bigger focus, acquisition or development, maintenance or restoration, rehabilitation of trail linkages, including trailside and trailhead facilities, environmental awareness and education programs, and redesign or relocation of trails that will positively impact the environment. So these are 25% cash or in kind, but we also are able to fund equipment. So there's a 25% cash match for equipment costs that are greater than $750,000. We are, our maximum grant request is 150,000 and 75,000 per equipment piece. And then this is a federally sourced grant program, and what we've found with our federal programs, there are a few more restrictions that are tied to that funding, and we would be able to take you through any of the specifics with that. And then just in general, some tips for applying. We update our applications every year. And so if you have applied in the past, you want to be sure that you download the most current application that would be released in December. We also encourage you to start early and follow the instructions. I know a lot of people want to be able to supply as much documentation as they see necessary, but what we're asking for is what we need. And so you can go ahead and supply additional documentation. It may not be reviewed, just so you're aware. So if you just stick to what's being asked, you're good. You also want to ensure that your matched funds are correct. So correct to the grant program. So whether it's in kind, cash, and if there are different rules for state versus federal funding, make sure that those are all correct and eligible for the program you're applying for. Programs with the secured match ranks higher. We have color coding with our parks grants for our rec site maps that are pretty specific and may seem silly, but when we're reviewing many site rec plans, it takes a lot of time to figure out what we're looking at unless everyone's following the same color coding. And so any of the guidance that we are asking for with the maps, especially the maps, because the maps get used independently, we're often referring to them, we're making sure the site rec plans are tying back to the budget. And so any of that guidance should be followed. And then we encourage anybody to take advantage of early draft review. So for our park grants, we are entering a 2-week period where we're accepting draft applications for review. We'll provide feedback, turn them around in a couple weeks, give applicants a chance to make any fixes, make any adjustments to the project, and turn around a complete application package by the end of March. Dan does the same thing with his trail programs. And you don't score higher for submitting an early draft. So we have many applicants that don't submit for early feedback, and that's okay. They don't lose points on their final application because of that. But I would say that consistently the projects that get awarded have usually been through the review because they maybe on their first time submission missed this piece or an important aspect that they were able to add in for the final package. It just made their project more competitive. So we encourage people to submit what you can for that early review. At that juncture, I will open it up for questions. If anybody has anything about the parks programs, I can answer a few about the trail programs, but just happy to take questions.
Jim Deering here, City of Redwood Falls again. On your Natural Scenic Grant, where you had a couple slides earlier.
Yes.
Is there specific areas or a map of natural scenic areas that you're focusing on, or the Minnesota River Valley, or does it just have to be, like I'm saying, like on the Redwood River here in Redwood Falls, tributary to the Minnesota?
Yep. We don't prioritize certain areas of the state. Anybody that's looking to acquire an area under this grant is eligible, and we do include school districts, and the school districts are ineligible for applying for our other park funds, but we aren't prioritizing specific regions of the state for these grants.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add on the website that we provided, if you look at the additional program documents, like the program manual and the FAQ document, it kind of has some additional information on terms of what we're looking for in terms of what's defined as a natural and scenic area.
Thank you.
I have a question about taking advantage of multiple grants, especially where there's proposed trails and also park improvements that might qualify for the outdoor rec grants, and how you handle those, whether they're allowed, if there's any sort of conflicts there with going after multiple grants?
Yep. Great question. There really is no issue with going in for multiple grants. How that's handled internally is if you're going in for a trail grant and a parks grant, we just coordinate with Dan on everything that we need. So you're not duplicating work and duplicating submissions. So if you're submitting environmental information for Dan's trail grants, we accept that for park grants as well. So we just work with the grantee to coordinate and kind of streamline what that process is going to be. There aren't going to be points taken or points given for multiple or magnitude of projects. But yes, it is possible to go in for multiple projects. For our outdoor rec for the local parks grant, if a city is looking to secure funds for 2 grants, we would need 1 application per park. It wouldn't be a city application for as many parks as possible. It would be an application for each park.
Do you have a preference, like at the beginning of the process, if we know our client is looking for multiple grants, just to have a coordination meeting between you and Dan and the client to talk through the project and what's eligible and, just set the stage?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. We have a lot of applicants reaching out, wanting a little more guidance. I think if we are having some early coordination meetings, it just makes you better prepared on what needs to be submitted. It helps us kind of gear up for what we're looking for. So yeah, we encourage any kind of early coordination, whether it's for multiple grants or just 1 grant. So yeah.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, hi, this is Ben with Stearns County, and I have a question regarding the outdoor rec program. If we're coming in strictly for an acquisition ask and no development funds, do we still need to go through the SHPO and the environmental, the NHIS reviews?
That is a little bit different. Jenny, do you know when SHPO comes in on that?
Yeah, we still do require the SHPO and environmental reviews. However, it just looks a little bit different because we can talk about how there's going to be limited or no development on the land, but it still does require a SHPO and environmental review.
Thank you.
Yep. I was just thinking too, Sarah, that last question was for the outdoor recreation program too, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So all of them would require SHPO, but that one, it would also, even though it's just for acquisition, at the time, it would still need to go through SHPO, and they probably would want information on future development plans to be included as part of that review.
I would just comment to the group that if there's a project that you're thinking about doing and wondering which grant that it might fit into, that you contact these 2 as well, because there's some projects out there that are a little different, don't necessarily feel like they fit into any one grant. And so I've called in the past to be like, does the outdoor rec grant fit this or not? Or maybe I should be going to a different grant. And so these 2 are going to be very good at directing you towards which grant is going to better fit your particular project. I've even gotten to the point where they're like, yeah, that project doesn't really fit any of our grants. But so, it's don't waste your time and talk to your grant coordinators early on, because they can really help guide you versus you just struggling on your own and then you end up with a grant that doesn't really fit in the program anyway. So.
Right, that's a great point. And we welcome we're not scary people. We take phone calls and we answer emails, and we want to be helpful and support the communities best we can. So yeah, if it's not going to be a fit, you'd rather know sooner than later. And at the point of application, you can reach out to either one of us for questions. Once awards come, we get assigned to managing specific grants, but Jenny and I communicate frequently day to day. So usually questions that are funneled to me, we just take a quick minute to discuss, make sure we're being consistent on our responses to our applicants, and pushing that information back out. So feel free to, if you can't reach me on the phone, call Jenny. We're kind of interchangeable at this point in the process.
Agreed, Sarah. Or when I sound like this when I'm on the phone, you can call Sarah.
Yeah.
I have a very unique question. I guess maybe not unique, but it's just it's a very narrow question about fishing accesses.
Okay.
You know, that's covered under, I believe, like the outdoor recreation grant. But the DNR generally has jurisdiction over the access points. So with the DNR having jurisdiction, but we maintain it on a daily basis, if we were to apply for an outdoor recreation grant for an access point, is there potential for the DNR to match some of that funding? Because sometimes you're in their list of priority and they pay for it all together, but if you're not high enough on their priority list and you want to pay for it on your own, it's kind of like who should be paying for those rehab situations?
Yeah, great question. And it is unique. I would say in general, state funds are not allowable as match. But I think at that point would be another opportunity for an early coordination call where we get a few more folks from Parks and Trails involved and probably Fish and Wildlife to make sure, determine the ownership and the responsibility and how far that reaches. Yeah. And I, to be honest, haven't been brought into that situation yet, but I feel like something's coming.
Well, we've kind of already been in the works on one of our access points, but there's more than one. So
Yeah.
I would throw out there, and Sarah, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think for our outdoor rec program, we primarily focus on like boating or canoe access sites and like fishing piers. And if we're getting into public access water points, I think it might be outside the scope of the outdoor rec program anyways.
Yeah.
Which is why then it often goes to the DNR, and it's a situation with the DNR, but we could confirm that too.
Yeah.
Jim Deering with the City of Redwood Falls. Just got done working with our DNR fisheries at Hutchinson and stuff like that. We dredged Lake Redwood here last year. Last year was the first full year of non-dredging, but it seems like last year. Really good working with them. They were able to help us get a hold of a fishing pier type of stuff. And so I recommend getting a hold of your local fisheries unit and see what they can help you with or develop a plan.
Yeah, great suggestion. I know our regional area offices get involved quite often in the planning. Grantees will ask for some input on the environmental portions of their applications from time to time too. So yeah, I agree the fisheries staff would be a great resource for reaching out for that kind of work. And piggybacking off of what Jenny was alluding to, we do fund fishing piers, boat access or launch points. And it's basically, it's pretty much like the structural part of that area. So, you know, if we're talking about bank stabilization or dredging or things like that, that would be outside of our scope, and we'd be talking to ecological waters, resources, and fish and wildlife probably within the DNR.
I know you touched on Sarah's question about multiple grants. Does that pertain to the legacy grant as well, the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails? Can you do a DNR grant and a legacy grant?
So
together?
great question. Yeah. So the commission, the legacy grants are for parks with the regional designation. So that means that they would not be eligible for the outdoor rec. We do have a number of regional parks that do have LWCF funding in them from the past. So before they became a regional status, they had maybe developed or acquired some land using LWCF, but it wouldn't ever be the opposite situation. So once you reach the regional designation, that park would not be eligible for the local parks grants.
And that includes the local trails grants too, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Great question. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've had some great questions. If nobody else is going to pop up with questions, I think we'll be able to give a little bit of time back to everyone today.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That was very informative. I appreciate that. If you're willing to send the PowerPoint,
Yes,
we
absolutely.
can add that as a link to our website for people to reference to, because I think that will be helpful as well. So,
yep, our contact information is on there too, and the links should work to the web pages that we were talking about. So, yep, I'll be happy to share that.
Great. Well, it was very nice to put some faces, or at least voices, Jennifer, to the names that we've been hearing lately. So thank you for joining us and letting us get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us.
Yeah. So
Yes,
all right,
thank you.
everybody, thank you very much for joining today. It was a great group of people, and it was a very informative, fun forum. So for those that are on here, you can hear that next month we're actually going to be bringing in our Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails Legacy Grant Coordinators to do kind of the same thing. So we'll get the legacy folks in here to give us. There's Joe. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Joe is going to do the same thing next month with us, so look out for that forum date as well. Joe, did you want to pipe in a little bit?
Sure. No, we are busy working on all the updated materials for this year's application process. I've got tutorial videos in the works and just some new stuff. The commission's always looking to update the process, make it a little bit easier where we can, or more supportive for locals. So we're looking forward to being able to share that with everybody next month.
Awesome. And that is, I just wanted to double check my date. That will be Monday, the 25th. At 12:30 p.m. So you can join us again next month for another fantastic forum by Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails. Thank you very much, everyone. Everyone have a great day. Enjoy your warm weather. That's shaping up to be a great day outside. So get outside.
Thanks, Carolyn.